Three, two, one, and well, one more story about the opioid epidemic for the day. This goes out to all the kids born addicted to opium, heroin, morphine, fentanyl, oxycontin, hydrocodone, oxycodone. Dilaudid, you name it. You can't name it because there's literally thousands of different kinds of opioids. And they've never made one that's not addictive. There's no way to do it. There's just no way to do it. They made morphine to get people away from being addicted to smoking opium. Once people got addicted to that, then they created heroin to try to get them away from being addicted to the morphine. And when that started churning up addicts, well, that's when they came up with methadone. And they keep coming up with new shit, and they keep giving you new excuses as to why you should have it. And over the years, they've relaxed or otherwise cheated their way into basically dumping hundreds of millions of pills on this country every year. While at the same time, who knows who's shipping in all the heroin from Afghanistan, where we basically stand there and guard the opium crops so that more heroin can be made. It's a fucking deadly cycle, guys. We're all addicted to it in one way or another. I myself am addicted to informing the public that there's another way. And that other way for pain management is cannabis. Now, when it comes to addiction, I can't parenthetically say that cannabis is the way out of addiction. It's a good crutch. I just quit smoking cigarettes cold turkey. That's pretty impressive. When I quit heroin cold turkey. That was a long time ago. I don't know, it's a crazy situation that we're in now. Now we have literally the same amount of people are dying every year of opium and heroin, opioids and heroin put together. Every year, that many people are dying. It's the same amount of people about that American soldiers died in Vietnam. That took a couple years for that to happen, almost a decade. When is enough enough, man? Well, maybe enough is enough after we see these manufacturers get sued so hard, since the fucking federal government, the DEA and the FDA, the same assholes who keep stonewalling marijuana and saying that it's not medicine, they keep approving these guys for more drugs and more experiments and more trials to put more drugs on the market. These guys get away with it. The FDA, the DEA, they don't slow these guys down. I'm trying to find out the actual numbers though. I want to know what is the amount of, let's say, 80 milligram. I don't know if that's even a thing. Like the biggest one they make, OxyContin, might be 80, might be something like that. How many of those are made a year by one company, or what's the total number allowed made by all the different companies? Because that we should kind of know that, and that should be a thing. Because if you make a certain amount of something in 1 year, and then you don't sell it all, it starts to go bad. Before you know it, you lost all that money in product, and we all know that you can't operate a business like that. How much of this shit are they making? I don't know. Maybe I better be quiet. But so I guess since the government's not going to do anything to protect us from these deadly pills, what are we going to do? Well, maybe if we sue the fuck out of them until they're crippled, they're going to have to listen to what we want to tell. The government might have to bend to our demands at that point. If the pharmaceutical companies have no more money to lobby with. But I don't know if it's actually going to go down like that. So this is coming out of Tennessee. A new lawsuit invokes the plight of a baby born dependent on opioid drugs, as 3 Tennessee prosecutors and the baby's guardian accuses several drug manufacturers of unleashing an epidemic through deceptive marketing that downplayed the risks of addiction to painkillers. Quote, Baby Doe spent his first days in the neonatal intensive care unit writhing in agony as he went through detoxification. According to the suit filed Tuesday in the Sullivan County Circuit Court in Kingsport, Tennessee. The infant boy, who is not identified, was born in March 2015. The baby survived after spending 14 days in a neonatal intensive care unit, often crying uncontrollably, and was given morphine to wean him off of his addiction, the suit says. The child, the documents say, continued to suffer from numerous health and learning disabilities. The lawsuit was filed by 3 district attorneys who represent parts of the East Tennessee Mountains and Appalachia, which has been the epicenter of the prescription drug epidemic that has ravaged the country. It's among a growing number of lawsuits filed recently around the country against opioid drug makers. The lawsuit, announced at Nisonger Children's Hospital in Johnston City, Tennessee, about 25 miles south of the Virginia state line. The hospital recently added a new neonatal intensive care unit to treat babies with neonatal abstinence syndrome, or NAS, because it has been inundated with infants born dependent on opioids. My question to Purdue Pharma and all you other fuckers that manufacture this garbage: how do you sleep at night, man? This is disgusting. Standard treatment for babies born dependent on opioids is giving them small doses of morphine or methadone to help them cope with their withdrawal symptoms before weaning them from the drug. Ooh. Maybe try some CBD, see if that might help instead, I would recommend, but who knows. Tennessee has the second highest statewide opioid prescription rate in the country outside West Virginia, said Barry Staubus, a district attorney who represents Sullivan County. Tony Clark and Dan Armstrong are the other prosecutors who joined the suit against 3 drug companies and their subsidiaries. The lawsuit targets Purdue Pharma, maker of OxyContin, Millenkraut PLC, which manufactures and sells multiple painkillers, and Endo Health Solutions, which develops and sells several painkillers, including Opana. Federal FDA recently called for Endo Health Solutions to remove Opana from the market, saying the risks of abuse outweigh the painkiller's benefits. The suit also names 2 convicted drug dealers and an alleged pill mill. Y'all gotta just quit making them pills, man, is what the FDA said. They're like, those are just off the hook. I don't know, whatever Opana is, I've never even heard of it, to be honest. The lawsuit seeks to stop the flood of opioids in Tennessee and to recover an unspecified amount of money for the cost of combating the epidemic, including medical expenses, drug treatment, and pain and suffering. The suit also seeks to invalidate a Tennessee law limiting the amount of punitive and non-economic damages that people can win in a lawsuit, saying that statute is unconstitutional. Yeah, and I guarantee you a bunch of right-wingers that were cooking that shit up for their illegal, crazy, corrupt corporations that were getting sued left and right. How dare you try to limit the amount somebody can sue somebody for? You can't cripple somebody or make an impact with just some token little, pissant settlement. You gotta stick it to them. So if you can't really pound all this stuff home, medical expenses, drug treatment, pain and suffering damages, People have lost their jobs, they've lost their lives, they've lost their loved ones to death. Overdose of all these drugs are just off the charts. You guys don't give a shit. Now everybody's got kids being born addicted to this shit. Is that your business fucking model? The spokesman for Endo Health Solutions did not immediately respond to a phone message seeking comment. Quote, "We have broadly supported efforts to combat the opioid abuse healthcare crisis through a range of advocacy initiatives, direct lobbying campaigns, and charitable activities," a statement from Millicrot said. Quote, "We take our responsibility as opioid manufacturer very seriously." Well, apparently not. Apparently you're named in this lawsuit because you're a reckless fucking liar that's been deceiving the public and pushing this shit, just like I've reported on from Insys Therapeutics and just like I've reported on about Purdue. While we vigorously deny the allegations in the complaint, we share public officials' concern about the opioid crisis, and we are committed to working collaboratively to find solutions. A statement from Purdue said, "Purdue is owned by one family, and they just made the fucking list as being like one of the top 16 billionaires in the country or some shit." I don't know, man. These people don't give a fuck. The more customers they have, the happier they are. So of course they want your kids to be born addicted to their products. Quote, "At Purdue, we have dedicated ourselves to working with policymakers." That's fucking such a lie right there. Yeah, you work with policymakers so that you can get more of your prescriptions out there. You can manufacture more. You do more advertising. I mean, we know why you lobby. You lobby to get rid of limits. You lobby to get things descheduled or rescheduled. You do the same thing as somebody that was trying to maybe perhaps legalize medical marijuana might do. Only we're doing it to help people. You're doing it to line your fucking pockets and kill people, essentially. And you've also dedicated yourselves to working with public health officials and law enforcement to address this public health crisis. You try to bribe the law enforcement, and I don't know how you guys keep getting away with all this shit. So they include developing abuse deterrent technology. So that's a good fancy legal term, legal phrase, I guess you would call it. He said his dedication to working with policymakers or blah, blah, blah. And also they are developing abuse deterrent technology. Those 4 words. That basically doesn't mean shit. If it's not proven and it doesn't actually work, then they didn't do it. And then they're advocating for the use of prescription drug monitoring programs. Yeah, I don't know if you're advocating for the use of them or advocating for limiting the use of them. And of course, supporting access to naloxone, which is basically like saying, yeah, here, we're just throwing all these deadly drugs out there. We know somebody's going to overdose, so here's one of those to just in case you overdose. The suit is the opening salvo on the war on opioid addiction in Tennessee, say plaintiff's attorney Gerald Stranch, managing partner in the Nashville firm Barnstetter, Stranch, and Jennings. Very brave souls there. Quote, "We expect this to be a long, drawn-out battle, and we are ready." Well, that's all you get there. Yeah, I always like to quickly check the comments section, but you know, in case somebody from the local area chimed in, which I didn't see there. So, Nashville, Tennessee, the mountains. You know what I think of when I think of that? I think of back in the good old glory days of marijuana and hemp growing. And after that shit happened in 1937, the rug got pulled from under all that industry. And yeah, man, I don't know if anything's ever came along to help the economy there since then. But it's one of the sadder stories in the situation. And as you can see, I said it time and time again, and I'll keep reminding people that this is something, when you're talking about, we work with policymakers. Well, here's an example of how Purdue worked with the FDA. The FDA approved the use of opioid painkiller OxyContin in patients aged 11 to 16 who have not benefited enough from alternatives. And I guarantee you, none of these people were ever offered cannabis, unfortunately. Because, cannabis is just so bad. Even though this shit kills people, creates addicts, guaranteed. Purdue, which has been asked by the FDA to evaluate the drug's use in children, will also conduct post-marketing studies. Well, I can't wait to see what that turns out. The original formulation of OxyContin, which was first approved nearly 2 decades ago, was withdrawn due to its potential for abuse. And that's what they mean when they say working with policymakers. Yeah. Then when they had that, when they were developing the anti-abusive technologies or whatever, that fancy shit they were saying down here. Yeah. So, developing abuse deterrent technology. They went back to their policymakers and told them that, and next thing you know, they're good to go. So, none of these people care about your kids. They don't care about you. All they care about is the bottom line. They care about being in that Forbes list of top billionaires, and that's it. They don't really give a fuck about anything else. And if you think that they do, you're delusional.